The percent equation. The percent equation is given by the formula percent times base equals the amount. Note that the percent should always be written as a decimal value before we substitute it into the formula. We're going to use this formula to find different values of the percent equation. Let's check out some examples. The number 64 is what percent of 160? For this problem, we're going to use the formula percent times base equals the amount. We're going to convert this question into a number sentence. The number 64 is the amount. The word is in word problems means equals. Percent is just the percent, and we don't know that value, so I'm going to write percent here. Of in math means times, so we'll put a times symbol. 160. 160 is our base. So here we have the formula percent times 160 equals 64. I want to isolate the percent because that's the value that I'm looking for. It's my unknown. So in order to get this value by itself, I want to divide both sides by 160. The 160 will cancel on the top and bottom on the left side. So the percent equals 64 divided by 160. When we do that on our calculator, we get 0.4. Now 0.4 is a decimal, but we want a percent. That means that I'm going to multiply 0.4 by 100. If I do that, that moves the decimal 2 places to the right. So that means that my percent is 40%. In my math lab, it will state the number 64 is blank percent of 160. To type in the answer, put your cursor in the text box and type in 40. The number 165 is 30% of what number? We're going to use the formula percent times base equals amount. First, we need to identify what numbers represent the percent, the base, and the amount, and then we can go ahead and solve our problem. First, we have the number 65 is. Remember, the word is means equals in math. So, the number next to the word equal is 165. That tells me that the amount is 165. 30% is the percent because there's a percent symbol next to that number. And then of means multiply. What number is our unknown? So we can write base because we don't know that. And it equals 165. Now, before we solve this problem, notice that we have a percent in our problem. Whenever you have a percent in a math formula, you need to first convert it to a decimal before you start solving. So I'll write 30% and I want to convert it to a decimal. To do that, we divide by 100. That's the same thing as moving the decimal 2 places to the left. So my decimal is 0.30. Now I can use this value in my formula. So I have 0.30 times the base equals 165. I'm going to divide both sides by 0.30 to get the base by itself. So I have the base equals 165 divided by 0.30. When I do that calculation, I get that the base is 550. So my answer is 550. For this question, we simply need to type in 550. What is 12.25% of 124? So this says what is. So that automatically tells me that I'm searching for the amount in this problem. I'm given the percent, which is 12.25%. Of is the multiplication symbol, and then the base is 124. And I'm looking for the amount. Again, I have a percentage in my formula, so first I need to convert that percent to a decimal. So over here, I'll write 12.25%. And to convert that to a decimal, I want to divide by 100. We can do this on our calculator, or you can just locate the decimal and move it 2 places to the left. That gives me a decimal value of 0.1225. I'll put this value into my formula. So now I have 0.1225 times 124 equals the amount. So we can take our calculator and type in 0.1225 times 124. When you do that calculation, you should get 15.19. That is the number. That is 12.25% of 124. So we'll enter this number into MyMathLab. This answer is 15.19. So we'll put our cursor in the text box and type in our decimal value. In 2005, there were 719 Spanish-speaking radio stations in a certain region. By 2015, this number had increased by 14.2%. How many Spanish-speaking radio stations were there in 2015? So we're told that in the year 2005, there were 719 Spanish-speaking radio stations. We're also told that this number increased by 14.2%. If we multiply 719 by 14.2%, this will give us the number of stations that it increased by. So first we're going to find that number. Remember, we have a percentage in our formula, so we have to convert that to a decimal. So 14.2%, to change that to a decimal, we need to divide 14.2 by 100. That's the same thing as moving the decimal 2 places to the left. That will give me a decimal of 0.142. So I'll rewrite this problem as 719 times 0.142. When you do that multiplication, you should get 102.098. Now this represents the number of stations that it increased by. Since we can't have a fraction of a station, a radio station, we're going to round to the nearest integer or whole number. So we're going to approximate this as 102 stations. Now this is the number that it increased by. So in 2005, there were 719 stations, and then it increased by 102 stations in 2015. So how many Spanish-speaking radio stations were there in 2015? To find that number, we're simply going to take the number of stations in 2005, which is 719, plus the number of stations that it increased by, which is 102. Add those two numbers together, and we'll get 821 stations. And that is our final answer. The answer to this question is 821. The instructions on the screen say to round to the nearest integer as needed. We did that and got the answer of 821, so we just need to type that answer into the text box.